Public Speaking in Various Contexts, Chapter 12. We're going to look, first of all, at speaking in personal and civic context. Ceremonial speaking refers to speeches of praise, tribute, and celebration that bring audiences together on social occasions. Special occasion speeches should always be brief, unless otherwise noted. Special occasion speeches should focus on the occasion. Special occasion speeches, different types of those. Speech of introduction. This occurs when one speaker briefly introduces an upcoming speaker, and it usually focuses on the occasion, but it also usually says a little bit about the person that's speaking, and it should be no more than 1 to 2 minutes long. There may be opportunities where you can present an award at a banquet, and this goal of the speech is to enhance the value of the award and honor and a little bit about the person that's receiving it. If you're ever given the opportunity where you're accepting an award at a public forum, I think all of us have practiced accepting our Grammys or Oscars. We need to be brief and gracious and humble. And before you begin speaking, take a moment, pause, smile in gratitude, and make eye contact with your audience. A toast is the shortest special occasion speech. It involves very little preparation, and it's more impromptu. A speech of tribute is a longer and more formal version of a toast that establishes why a person, group, or concept is worthy of praise. And a eulogy is a speech honoring a person who has died. That can be a challenging speech to give if you've never had an opportunity to speak at someone's memorial service or funeral. It is a challenging one. It does require a lot of preparation. To ensure that you're able to speak at an occasion like that, sometimes you don't realize how emotions may hit you until you're in a room with mourning family and friends. So it does involve a lot of preparing and working to kind of get yourself in the right mindset so that you can appropriately honor this person. Speaking as an advocate in a personal and civic context, public advocacy, engaging people through responsible communication that seeks to make a better world for our loved ones or our communities. So you may have an opportunity to speak at a really public context, or it could be something like a school board meeting or a city council meeting where there's something that's happening that you either adamantly agree or disagree with, and you want to use the power of your words to help persuade individuals about the right steps to take. Speaking in academic settings is a little bit different. You have to consider the area that you're working in, and I think probably in your college career you'll encounter this, or probably already have in high school, that various people that specialize in various areas kind of have different needs based on the information they need from you. So in social sciences, it's driven by quantitative and qualitative data reviewed in existing literature or from research projects. In arts and humanities, a lot of times that revolves around critiquing, reviewing, comparing, discussing maybe literature, art, philosophies. In education and training and development, that's really helping you learn how to deliver a lecture, facilitate a discussion, or run an activity as if you were the teacher or the trainer. In science and math, that usually focuses on methodologies and the logic on how you got to the results that you did. In technical courses, it focuses on learning through testing, replication, and design, and then translating the technical information involved in those processes into lay terms so that when you and I get our computer, we can read the instructions and know how to set it up. Speaking at academic conferences or when people gather to discuss and share their knowledge in a particular field of study, that can be an intimidating opportunity because everyone there specializes in the same thing you do. So if you're ever given an opportunity to speak at a setting like that, you just want to make sure that you're really confident in what you're saying, that you are clear in your communication, that you're prepared to answer any questions based on your statements, because everyone there specializes in the same thing that you do. In the business settings, most of communication the communication style kind of varies depending on the place in which you are in the hierarchy of the organization. So there's upward communication. That's when you're speaking to those that are above you in the hierarchy. You may be giving a proposal or a brief to individuals that are higher than you within the organization. Horizontal communication is communicating with colleagues that are at the same level as you are within the organization. And downward communication involves speaking to those that may hold a lower place than you do within the organization. Speaking to clients, customers, and funding sources can be an intimidating opportunity because a lot rest on your abilities. So when we communicate with outside stakeholders, we want to make sure that our message is clear, that we are a clear communicator as a representative of our organization, that we want to make sure that we are confident in our message and that we are representing our organization to the very best of our ability, because a lot rests on how they see us as a representative of that organization. In intercultural contexts, we want to make sure that we speak clearly, that we are articulate, that we avoid any idiomatic expressions and acronyms. So concrete language is very important. We want to try to use examples that are relevant across various cultures or geography. We want to make sure that we're aware of differences of communication between cultures and aware that different cultures interpret graphics differently. Common business presentations might be a briefing, a very short presentation just to update your audience. A report may be a little bit more substantial, and you may be talking about progress or status of a task. It can talk about past, present, or future. If it's lengthy, remember to make sure to maybe consider implementing visual aids, because that might really help your audience have a clear understanding of the information you're providing. Training may happen within the organization where you're training new employees for the job, or maybe there are changes in systems within your current organization and you're training existing employees how to adapt to the new systems. And a meeting is something where you really define what's going on within the organization, or maybe figure out the best way to complete a task. Speaking versus via electronic media. We know that radio is one medium where your voice delivers the whole message, so make sure to use your voice effectively within that medium. Television, we know it's visual, so consider your surroundings, and appearance is important in television. You think of kind of how everything changed during COVID, where the newscasters were in their own home, and so you have like Twitter accounts like Room Rater that are really measuring how well they did at the placement for their background on their Zooms. Was it a visually appealing background? Were the books placed correctly? Was artwork where it should be? Things like that kind of took on a life of its own during COVID and lockdown. And then media interviews, just make sure you're comfortable with what you're being asked by the reporter, so that you have a clear answer for them. The last thing we're going to look at is crisis communication. To me, it's one of the most interesting things to study when it comes to communication. And this is something, if you ever think about going into public relations, this is a whole component of that field. It occurs when something major has happened that has resulted in a negative image from the public. So as a result of a major event outside of normal expectations that has potential negative results, it runs the risk of escalating in intensity and may result in close media or government scrutiny, and creates pressure for a timely and effective response. So crisis communicators interact with the media, they communicate with stakeholders, and they really focus on relationships, reputation, responsibility, and response. So there are a lot of interesting cases in crisis communication through history. One of the first ones that I think probably happened before crisis communication was a thing was in 1982. Someone tampered with Tylenol bottles, and they basically laced the Tylenol with cyanide, and that was sold to the public. And 7 individuals died of cyanide poisoning after taking Tylenol. So Tylenol then, of course, had to tell people, if you have Tylenol at your home, don't take it. They had to pull it from the market. They had to figure out how this tampering even happened. And then they had to rebuild their reputation and get people to trust them again. It was probably the first biggest crisis communication case before it was a field. Other cases that are interesting, American Red Cross has had a few actually, but a big one happened after 9/11 when they did a lot of fundraisers that they said this money was going to go to the families of victims on the September 11th attacks. But then families would come out and say, okay, we never got anything. And so then there was a mistrust between the public and the American Red Cross. So they had a full ad campaign on how we can trust them, and they are managing things correctly, and they are giving to the families. So that was a big example. Firestone Tires had a big case it's been a good number of years, where their tires, a tire line, specifically tires I believe that were used on the Ford Explorer, basically had a lot of blowouts. There were a lot of issues with tires. They were having blowouts when they were new. It wasn't any other reasons why other than a flaw with the tires. It was causing a lot of accidents from drivers that were sometimes catastrophic. And so it all was linked back to a specific line of Firestone tires. So once again, Firestone was at a point where they had to they fixed the problem, but then they had to earn trust back from their buyers, from the public, that you can trust that our tires are going to keep you safe in your car. So these cases have happened over and over again. I would say in most recent couple of years, we've seen a lot of this happen at an individual level, where we see an individual that's in a public place that makes some choices that aren't in their best interest. They're offensive. They make statements that are offensive. And so teams surround them to attempt to rebuild a reputation that they have badly damaged. So that's a really interesting part of communication, is crisis communication. So in this presentation, we've looked at special occasion speeches, speaking in the business setting, and crisis communication. I hope this helps give you a little bit better understanding of various communication opportunities you might encounter throughout your career and your life.